Conspiracy theorist.
He's a conspiracy theorist.
That's what you were called if you asked any questions during the COVID-19 pandemic. And yours truly, we faced the backlash firsthand. We watched as our YouTube channel was demonetized and slowly was restricted until eventually YouTube decided to label us harmful content.
And I refuse to further subject 3 innocent children to your peculiar and potentially harmful behavior.
Twitter, back under old leadership, decided that our content was also questioning the science a little too much. And of course, we got throttled there. And even today, my account still has issues with reach because of what was done back during COVID. And fast forward to 2026, all those conspiracy theorists, yeah, they were just proven right. Yeah, let's talk about that. Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's compilation episode of The Brian Nichols Show. We're going to go back and look at 3 episodes going back to, yes, the origins of COVID-19. The reason being, there's a lot that's been uncovered, namely all those conspiracy theories that we were raising up during 2020, 2021, and 2022. Turns out they weren't conspiracies at all. As a matter of fact, Anthony Fauci, the guy who said he was the science, turns out he was actually agreeing with us behind closed doors. He just didn't want to say it out loud because it would have disrupted the narrative. So we're going to dig into the lies of Anthony Fauci. We're going to look at right now the backlash that is currently being faced by the corporate media, which I laugh because nobody deserves it more than the corporate media because they were the ones going out and not only ramping up the fear, but also getting people on board with this across the board. So a little conversation between CNN's Dana Bash and RFK Jr. And then we're going to jump into today's conversation, which is actually 3 conversations going back to, yes, the height of the pandemic. What were we saying here on the show? Was it actual science or were we actually slinging conspiracy theories? Let's go ahead and dig into that. But first, a quick shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Cardio Miracle. Cardio Miracle is the best heart health supplement in the world. And I know that because I use it every single day, morning and night, twice daily. And I got to tell you, ever since I started using Cardio Miracle about 3 years ago now, I have noticed such an improvement in my heart health. I'm sleeping better. My blood pressure is lower. I'm getting improved pump at the gym. My resting heart rate is lower. And that's all because my ticker is doing way, way better. And the secret ingredient, nitric oxide, plus a blend of other phenomenal ingredients will have you saying, wow, where has this been in my health supplement regimen for these past few years? Well, have no worries. Head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. Not only can you go ahead and sign up for Cardio Miracle, but you're going to get 15% off for being a listener of The Brian Nichols Show. Just make sure you use that link because that not only lets them know you heard them here on The Brian Nichols Show, but it also does help us out here at The Brian Nichols Show as well. So one more time, cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. Your heart will thank you. So for those of you who've been listening to the show for a while now, I mean, we've had episodes going back to 2018. You've heard the conversations we've had here on the show, and you heard during COVID how this was a very big turning point in my life because I went from libertarian ideas being more theoretical and then started seeing, okay, how do we apply these in real life?
Welcome to real life.
And I started watching people who not only didn't agree with my libertarian values, but were actually using government to forcibly enact their values against mine. And this really, reared its ugly head during COVID because we saw not only the heightened fear around what was happening at that time, but then the inability for anyone to ask questions or to use critical thinking skills, common sense. And if you've been listening to the show, you probably remember these conversations I was having with you in real time of very close friends, guys who were in my wedding party, telling me that my beliefs, my questioning what was happening at that time, the forced lockdowns, the forced push for vaccinations across the board, the narratives of forced masking and social distancing, just raising these questions made me anti-science, and it made me a threat.
He's a threat to all of us, a traitor.
And even to this day, those relationships aren't the same, and I don't think they ever will be. But then we just saw over the past month Rand Paul release Anthony Fauci's diaries, and they're not actually diaries. They were more or less Anthony Fauci's private thoughts that he was documenting on his public records. But these are the true thoughts of Anthony Fauci. And what we saw being presented on the public surface as Anthony Fauci is a very different person than what was being presented behind the scenes. And that person behind the scenes not only didn't think COVID was as much of a red flag as he made it out to be when he was doing his press conferences, but he actually started to believe that the whole narrative around the vaccines itself, that if you were going to get a vaccine, you're going to save not only your life, but everybody else's life because, well, goodness, you are now going to be able to prevent transmission.
Science.
Turns out he didn't even believe that himself. So let's quickly dig into 5 of what I would say are the most egregious issues with Anthony Fauci's diaries, his public statements and his private statements. And number 1 is the death rate. So February 8th in 2020, in his diary entry, Anthony Fauci logged a call with former CDC director Tom Frieden, and they agree that the virus is acting, quote, and this is verbatim, like a bad influenza, a bad seasonal flu, and that the real denominator, right, is far bigger than confirmed cases. Why is that important? This is, again, just basic math, right? The bigger the bottom number in the fraction, the more the sample size. So that means inevitably the lower the percentage would be. So that means that because of that, the actual fatality rate was more like, and this is again in Anthony Fauci's diary, 0.2 to 0.3% rather than 2%, which is what he was saying on television. His own count in his records that day was that there was 34,687 cases, 724 confirmed deaths. All right. 31 days later, he was sworn before the House Oversight Committee, and he said that mortality is about 3%. And when he was pressed to compare it to the flu, he runs the identical asymptomatic denominator logic he used in the diary, but he stops at 1%, and he just says it's 10 times more lethal than this seasonal flu. So this is the same method, the same man, but the number that he presented publicly was 3 to 5 times higher than it actually was. And he never told Congress that he had his own estimate and that even existed.
He's a liar.
So that's number 1. Number 2, and this was a huge kind of eye-opener for me, and this is the schools and the lockdowns. And we all remember this, March 15th, 2020. This is the day that the world basically shut down. And in his diary entry, he starts out with, in big red letters, big day. And he writes that he, quote, convinced Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York City to close all New York City public schools, and then told him to close the bars and restaurants.
It's closing time.
In the same entry, Newsom's Governor Gavin Newsom out of California, his chief of staff, says California closed schools, bars, restaurants, all based on what? Dr. Fauci's TV appearances, which, by the way, Fauci loves him some Fauci, and he makes that very clear in his diary entry as well. Just go and look at the accolades he sings about himself, as said by noted personalities. But then 3 days later, right? 3 days later here, after March 15th, he advises Bill de Blasio to shelter in place all of New York City. And then in 2022, fast forward 2 years, The Hill reports, as per what Anthony Fauci said, that, quote, I didn't recommend locking anything down. You did. January 9th, 2024, sworn testimony to the House Oversight Committee. Now he's actually under oath, and he says, I didn't close the schools. He said that verbiage on purpose. I didn't close the schools. He definitely was recommending it behind the scenes because he was claiming that credit privately and then he was denying any involvement under oath. So obviously, both things can't be true. Number 3, and this is back in May of 2021, the transmission issue here. He was on the Face of the Nation. Breakthrough infections, he says, are almost always asymptomatic. Okay, viral loads too low to spread, and then the line, you become a dead end to the virus. And this is again with the vaccine, right? This is the narrative with the vaccine. This claim is the architecture behind the scenes for a mandate. You had vax passports, you had the restaurant cards, you had employee mandates that they were going to mandate through OSHA, and it all rested on your status, on whether or not you were going to get other people sick. 9 weeks later, on the Provincetown outbreak, he retreats to unlikely. So CDC's own data showed vaccinated cases carrying viral loads comparable to the unvaccinated. June 15th, 2022, the NIH press release, Fauci tests positive.
I got sick.
He was fully vaccinated, twice boosted, put on Paxlovid, and then nobody who got fired from refusing the vaccine themselves got their job back. By the way, worth noting, 6 months of his diary are missing. It was December 1st of 2021 through May 30th of 2022. They are entirely gone. So that's during the Omicron surge, which for folks who remember, that was the entire window that this claim ultimately died in. So just kind of interesting timing there. Number 4 doesn't sound as important, but it actually is. And this is the origins of COVID. February 1st, 2020. Anthony Fauci convenes 11 top virologists. And in his notes, he says there was not total agreement. Only 2 were convinced that COVID-19 was natural in origin. The majority felt that, quote, deliberate insertion of the furin cleavage site was possible, citing the research WIV was running, which is the Wuhan Institute of Virology. I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, Shi Zhengli.
Tell them that in your fake Ching Chong language.
Named, and he said, we could not let this go. 3 days later, 4 of them draft a proximal origin letter, and they send it to Fauci and Francis Collins before publication. It declares no lab scenario plausible. A 2023 House Select Subcommittee memo says Fauci prompted the draft. April 17th, 2020, right there, White House podium, he was asked, Anthony Fauci, if the COVID-19 virus came from a lab. And Fauci cites a, quote, group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists, concluding that this was from natural origin. What he didn't mention was that he was the guy who convened the entire call. And he didn't mention that his entire notes recorded the opposite, or that he'd seen the actual draft of the letter before it was written and published. June 2020, private Slack message to the lead author, Christian Anderson, saying he, quote, has less confidence in the paper's no way language. So if you questioned the COVID origins, right, then you were considered racist because it possibly came from China. When it turns out not only did it most likely come from China, but as a matter of fact, it came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and we were likely funding illicit gain-of-function research in a roundabout way. Yeah, no wonder Anthony Fauci, who was told not to do that, would be kind of crapping his pants.
I just pulled myself.
But this goes to number 5, the money. So Anthony Fauci emails Duke University's Barton Haynes, whose institute got substantial NIAID funding while Fauci ran it, soliciting his own nomination. And it said, quote, as usual, I will supply all the material. as usual, okay? And he ended up winning the Dan David Prize. So the NIH staff, fast forward to COVID, was building the package for this nomination on the clock. And then in the verbiage, his staff was saying, quote, "We need to beef up the COVID part," when they were submitting this to these different organizations. So Dr. Lawrence Trask, one of the NIH's most senior officials, ran the ethics clearances. And then Rand Paul's committee called him Fauci's, quote, "personal awards manager." Why? Well, because Anthony Fauci, on all these different awards, got roughly $900,000 wired. And the staff reaction at approval: "At last, congratulations. You're rich."
She's so pretty, she's so beautiful, and she's so rich.
And then the chief of staff of Anthony Fauci, Greg Volker, said, quote, "I want my 15%. A joke? Maybe. Now, this, unfortunately, is the tip of the iceberg, because apparently, there's at least 8 more cash awards that were pursued. They were including, but not limited to, the Partnership for Public Service, Adelson Prize, the Smithsonian, the National Academy of Medicine, the CDC Foundation, and more. And when asked all about it, Anthony Fauci took the fifth about all of this. Literally, everything I just talked about, 1,141 pages that were released by the Senate Homeland Security Committee, documents Anthony Fauci, a federal employee, on a government computer, wrote during a declared public health emergency. By the way, he's already pardoned for all this, so there's zero criminal exposure. And he pled the fifth 111 times. This is the same man, by the way, who said, "Attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on the science." Did the science plead the fifth, Dr. Fauci? So finally, it feels like we conspiracy theorists, right, have been not only validated, but vindicated. But it's just the tip of the iceberg, because, again, going back to this proverbial iceberg, behind the scenes, there was infrastructure making all of this happen from a public perception standpoint. And you look no further than the corporate media as being, I would say, easily the number one culprits, because not only did they spend every single freaking day parroting this narrative of trust the science, trust the experts, but what did they do? They shut down dissent. You had folks like Chris Cuomo. You had folks like Don Lemon. You had folks like Jake Tapper. You go on and on and on. Anderson Cooper. Name the name. Your favorite CNN, ABC, even Fox News hosts, right? Who would not only shut down conversations around any questions of the COVID origins, the vaccine, the efficacy methods. They were shut down, but then also you were labeled a conspiracy theorist. You yourself were shut down. And fast forward to Trump winning in 2024, it felt like a complete rebuke of that COVID response. And with that, we got in HHS one Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, again, I was supporting back during his presidential run before he turned over to Team Trump. And I would say he has easily been one of the best voices, especially from the Maha movement, in terms of bringing like actual legitimate conversation to otherwise taboo topics. And this is no more visible than RFK's most recent appearance over on CNN with Dana Bash, who Dana Bash was one of those talking heads during COVID, really perpetuating the COVID hysteria. And I just want you to go ahead and take a listen to how RFK Jr., again, now with all of this being exposed, all those documents, plus Anthony Fauci pleading the fifth 111 times, we conspiracy theorists, again, with air quotes for the audio listener, now actually with the wind at our sails to our back. And now we're kind of on the offensive. Listen to how RFK took Dana Bash to task and really got a lot of the folks back from this old like COVID team that was the anti-COVID hysteria, gave us, a great video to share on social medias. This was making the rounds over on X. Take a listen.
Yeah, I said that already.
Okay, so
I know you're flustered now, and it is.
I'm not flustered at all.
Because
I am
people have not
frustrated.
been honest.
The reason I'm frustrated is because you are the HHS secretary, and you are talking about things that lead to vaccine hesitancy in this country. and it is something that causes problems for people
Let me
when
ask
there
you-
is not anything.
Let me ask you something. Do you see your job as ending vaccine hesitancy, or do you see your job as telling the truth to the American people?
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that there is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things out there in
You're
science,
repeating
and it
it
is
like a parrot. You're repeating
So are
it
you.
like a parrot.
So
I've
are you.
actually read the science.
You-
Let's you
you
and
don't
I
wanna-
come
you don't
back
wanna-
here and debate the
So
science.
I'm not debating this view.
Of course you won't.
No,
You
because
just-
I'm not
all
debating.
you know how to
also-
do is repeat things that people told you and say, trust the experts. That's what you did during COVID. Now we know that Anthony Fauci, who was the expert, was lying about everything, about masks, about social distancing, about natural immunity, about the transmission from the vaccine, about the source of COVID. He was lying, and you were punishing people for not trusting the experts. And now you're rolling out the experts again
Yes.
to talk about something that you have no personal knowledge of.
Okay. Well, guess what? That is my job, to talk to people.
Your job is to
Am I
tell the
allowed to
truth
talk?
the American
Yes,
public.
yes. And my job
And
is
to
to
be-
get as
and
much
to-
information as I
And to
can.
maintain
And what we were doing,
a posture
what we were
of
doing,
serious skepticism
what we
toward
were
government
doing
authority.
in COVID and still with regard to these vaccines is getting the best information, the best science that we can, and putting it out there. And sir, what you are doing is causing
getting the best
information
science
to
from
be out there
somebody
that
who's
is
lying to
not
you.
accurate.
Who was lying to
The
you?
National Academy of Science.
And that's right there why this is important, because Dana Bash represents a very much continuing perspective that exists not only in corporate media land because they have to cover their own butts, but in the populace by and large of, well, we did the right things with what we knew at the time, and that these actions that we took, these actions, not only did they help save lives, but if we didn't take any actions, there would have been death, destruction, all that narrative that was promoted. And that is just an effing lie. I almost swore because I just get so angry with this. That's a lie. Not only is it a just complete falsehood, but coming up next, I'm sharing the receipts. We had these conversations during COVID with people on this show, and we faced the music. We, again, watched our channels get censored in real time. I just finally got my Facebook page back to normal over the past few years. So, like, this is, for me, a very personal topic. And that was, again, not even considering the personal stuffs that happened in my own friendship circles, right? So, these conversations, yes, they were happening in real time. And no, Dana Bash, it's not that, we just didn't know what we didn't know. It's that you actively silenced anybody else from bringing any alternative perspectives to the table. How dare you? How dare you, truly? So let's go back. Let's listen to these conversations. I had 3 awesome chats. Well, actually, 2 of them are chats. One of them is a monologue. First, we're going to go and talk to Trent Ortner, and he was talking about the young folk, right? And this is where we're seeing a lot of the Gen Zers who, and you can feel it, right? This animosity, especially towards that more like the corporate, and call them the swamp, whatever, but that more establishment status quo perspective. You see someone like a Trent Ortner and his Gen Zers, right, facing what they were facing during COVID, and of course, it turned them into much more radical folks. But that's just the cultural side. Then we go to a next conversation with Jeffrey Tucker. And Jeffrey and I, we had some really good chats during COVID because he was one of the leading voices, really trying to raise the alarm. Working with folks like Nick Hudson over at the Pandemic Analytics and Data Organization, otherwise known as PANDA, and helping give folks who are raising not only the alarm, but giving the data, giving the research, giving them a platform. So we're going to have a conversation with Jeffrey Tucker. And that was right actually when Anthony Fauci said he was going to be resigning from the NIH. So just interesting timing with our conversation. And then the last piece is going to be a monologue I did where I was answering the question I was asked by Emily Ortner, I believe was her name, over at The Atlantic. And that was, do we need a pandemic amnesty? I'm guessing by my tee up here, you can kind of guess where I went with that conversation, but I outlined why, yeah, I have some thoughts on folks asking for a pandemic amnesty and more or less articulate my thoughts that I outlined here in much more dripping detail. So those are the three pieces. When we wrap up there, I'm going to go ahead. We'll reconnect and we'll just do some housekeeping. But with that being said, strap in three conversations. Well, no, two conversations, one monologue, all teed up here. And then with that, I'll see you at the end. Talk to you soon. Trent, how has all been in the world of Trent Ortner?
Well, my organization, we've grown and grown and grown. We've rebranded. We had some naming disputes that was going on with my former partner, so we just decided to drop the name. And we rebranded to Voices Against Tyranny. We're a carry committee, and we are also a political caucus. We're growing a media brand and a media conglomerate. We're putting together a profile of like 7 different podcasts that are going to be running soon, and we're going to try to do a news segment every day.
Wow, every day. Now I'm going to just elephant in the room, right? Because we just went daily here at the program. It's a lot, so strap in. It's a lot of fun though, because you do get the chance to build the audience in a different way. I've had the chance now with my 3 extra shows, having both Jeremy and Chris here on the sales and marketing shows be able to do one-on-ones with the audience, but also I'm going back. I'm having some old guests come back on the program and do a one-on-one with you guys, talk about things that they're curious about. So yes, the podcasting medium, Trent, exclusively from a marketing sales perspective, it's one of the best ways to build not only an audience, but to build a network. And I think let's kind of focus on what you guys are doing right now over at Voices Against Tyranny. You're building a network of like-minded people who are focused on, in this case, standing up against mandates. Now, you had reached out to me actually originally to discuss what's going to be taking place over on October 11th. And it's going to be for every, not just one, not just two, every university in the United States. October 11th is a national anti-mandate protest. What led you to build this network of folks standing against these mandates, specifically, Trent, on college campuses?
Well, like you were talking, the podcasting medium is taking off, and the medium is the message. Well, the message we're trying to carry over is that you have to stand up now to be able to combat what's coming in the future. Like this may seem like a menial little thing, getting a shot to go to school, but the fact that they are forcing college students to have to get something with this that a lot of them aren't comfortable getting in order to get an education that they are paying for is just it's beyond belief. And so there are a lot of colleges out there. There's Quinnipiac University in Connecticut are going to start fining students $200 if they don't, and they'll lose Wi-Fi access if they don't get comply. Rutgers, we're working with Sarah Rossi. She's done a lot of good work over there with the mandates that they originally tried to start. They were the first university to do it, but now they're going to start disconnecting school emails and denying people to even come on campus if they don't have it. Ohio State has a mandate that if you don't do it by November 15th, they're going to lose all class eligibility and lose the electronic resources for those classes.
What? Time out. Okay, so this is probably news to a majority of people. Like, we've heard the mandates, we've heard, if you want to be able to go back to school, you got to get your vaccine. But I don't think people have heard just, the extra parts, the losing your Wi-Fi because you're not vaccinated. Like, this is morphing, Trent. This is not the approach that the quote unquote good guys take. I'm sorry.
And all of them are going to every university that we've seen so far that is instituting these mandates are going to deny any on-campus housing. So these 18 and 19-year-old kids coming from across the country aren't going to have anywhere to live.
What? So who? let's focus now, right? Because this is piquing my interest and it's getting my blood boiling a little bit. This is coming from top down. It sounds like, right? These universities are standing against what you would think would be the will of the students. Where is this coming from, though? Is it the actual administrators or the professors?
This is from the university heads, from the board of directors, and the people that run any kind of policy control in these universities. We think it's coming from the federal government. We think that the federal government are probably putting pressure on these top administrators in these colleges, restricting federal funding and threatening them with a blockade of federal money. And that's how, so, that's multi-billion dollars that they're going to lose. And so these universities don't want to walk away from that.
Can you blame them? I mean, think about it, right? I mean, the incentive structures, we talk about this all the time in the liberty world. Incentive structures are real. So if we're going to pretend that college administrators, college faculty, that they're not playing the same incentive structure game, well, I have a nice bridge somewhere in Alaska to sell you. But that's not the point. The point being, though, is that you look at who is this actually impacting? You raised it up. You have 18 and 19-year-old kids who are quite literally flying, in some cases, across the country, dare I say across the world, to go to school, only to be told if you aren't vaccinated, not only will you not have Wi-Fi, not have access to schools, now you're not even going to have a place to stay. There's very real long-term implications of this, but there's also very real short-term implications, Trent. Essential versus non-essential. You're vaccinated versus non-vaccinated. Well, I'm sorry. I guess you don't have a place to stay when you're paying for the place, going to college of all places.
Right. And, this is how, going back to our name, tyranny, this is how tyrannical institutions take hold, is they start mandating these policies that separate and divide and alienate people. And so, I'm vaccinated. I'm pro-vaccine. Most of us are vaccinated and pro-vaccine, but we're against the fact that they're forcing these people to get something in order for them to be a part of the rest of the crowd or be a part of the rest of the free people in that state. And, it's a precedent that is going to be set. And if we allow it to be set now, it's going to affect generations to come. It's going to allow other precedents to be set, because they're going to go back and look back and be like, well, we did it to colleges and it worked in colleges, so we can institute it in this.
You said the part of the team, right? Excuse me there, the cough. The part of the team mentality. That's interesting. I just watched Lego Movie last night for the like 30th rewatch. And the reason I love Lego Movie, why? Because it is an overtly libertarian movie. And I'm going to do a special at this sometime in the future, talking about the underlying themes in different movies, specifically Lego Movie. But you hear, I mean, goodness, the one song that they sing throughout the entirety of the song, everything is awesome when you're part of a team. And part of the Lego Movie, no spoilers, guys, it's been out since 2014 for crying out loud, is that you have President Business. And it sounds, business is the bad guy. But actually, what happens is you have President Business, who has taken over the government and now is going to instill his vision of perfection, right? And what he does is he does this through the notion and the mentality of, well, we're all on the same team, guys. You're part of the team. This is what yields success, is doing what's good without thinking about yourself ever, for the benefit of the team. You see this mentality, Trent, very quickly translate over into academia, into, I would dare say, progressivism. You see a lot of folks in the left, and I'd say left, also academia, almost synonymously, because they are so often left-leaning. But you do see this mentality, right? That this collective hive mentality is not only the answer, it's the common sense answer. Where are we missing some of our friends there on the left, Trent, when they're approaching society through this collective lens?
Oh, man. That's funny, because I hold a whole lot of liberal ideals. Like, there's a lot of things that I stand for that are liberal. Like, I'm pro-choice, and I'm I'm pro-vaccine, but I'm against the mandates, and I'm pro anything. There are liberal things that go on, but allowing them to institute this sort of hive mentality at the very baseline of growth as an adult, where it's going to carry on further and further and further generations, where it's, this generation right here that's going to college, it's being institution. And then once they go through, then the next generation behind them, it's going to be common practice, and nobody's going to think twice about it. And then once you do that, you are able to indoctrinate on and on and on. And we've already seen that happen with the radical left and a lot of college students that have existed in the last 10 years, like that go out there and are out on the streets protesting. But they're not protesting for themselves. They're protesting this team and hive mentality that they've been taught, and they've been taught to stick together and to fight against people that that are different from them. That's the biggest problem. It's the alienation, is fighting against people and pushing people away that are different than you.
Did you see Randy Weingartner's tweet?
No.
So she had said, well, we didn't use to let our kids deal with this, right? Our kids. And now they're bringing the battle to our kids. Now she's talking about the public schooling system, the mentality that they're our kids, right? This collective mind. Yeah. You see this a lot. And the language that they speak when they're talking about certain issues, it almost is signaling to that mentality.
Yeah.
So I think we have to reverse engineer almost, Trent. Let's kind of go back to, why you're on the show. And that is because you see that this hive, this hive mentality, man, I got a frog in my throat today. This hive mentality has been fostering in these places of higher education, specifically academia.
Yeah.
And what's happening? Now you're having the direct implications of these policies hitting the very person and people that they should be trying to help, the students.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see, instead of this kind of academic mentality where the professor is working with the student and there's a symbiotic relationship that the professor is going to be able to almost, I don't want to say brainwash, but move this student towards this high mentality. Now, a lot of students are entering into college instantly with their defenses up exclusively because of what's happening. That's fascinating, Trent. And I'm actually kind of curious if this is going to maybe break down this cycle of perpetual leftism coming out of our schools.
It's starting in the high schools too. Like it's starting. My stepson's in high school. This is the first year this year, and they're already trying to alienate kids that aren't getting vaccinated there, and they're teaching it younger and younger and younger, and it goes like back in when Hitler when the Third Reich was around. Their philosophy was to start at the young child, start at the child and move to the adult. If you can train the child and make them into what you want it to be, you can train all of the adults that come after them to be exactly what you want them to be. It's quick. It's a quick way to start a long-term process. But the radical left, this is right in their playbook. Like, yeah, I don't think that it's disbanding the radical left. I think that it's empowering them. They claim to be something that they're not, and it's something that's gone on for centuries. Is like, the left will claim to be, well, we're not anti-slave, we're not anti this, but they really are. And like, they push these messages of not accepting people that have differing views than them. Like they call people that believe that follow Trump or anything right wing insurgents. They're terrorists. They're labeling people like me terrorists, domestic violent terrorists, because we don't agree with the way the system is being enacted.
Remember back in the good old days, Trent, when you'd drive past a progressive coexist bumper sticker and you'd smile to yourself? Could you say, oh, really? You want to live with me? And now I see it. I'm like, nope, they don't. They'd much rather say, we see Joe Rogan. He gets COVID and he says he uses that one drug that I'm not going to say the name on because I don't want to get my show banned today. And he's better in 3 days. And yet, dude, I don't know if you noticed this, but the vitriol, especially from the left, and it was shocking. It was truly shocking. Like, there are people who were openly advocating, there we go, that was hard to say, openly advocating for him to perish because, prove their point. He would get what he had coming to him. And that was the mentality.
I had a really good, one of my best friends did the exact same thing that Joe did, and it's the exact same result. Like, I'm not just saying that to follow the lead here. Like, I swear to God, I can show you proof. Like, it's the same result.
Well, and this is why it's so important for us to make sure that we are speaking out, especially when we're seeing things that are wrong. So let's go back to, truly back to why you're on the show, talking about that October 11th event, the anti-mandate protest. So it's everywhere. So what do kids, students have to do in order to take part in this one day nationwide day of protest?
Right now, we're using the Youth Against, I'm sorry, the YAL, and we're using Students for Liberty. That we're using their infrastructure to help push the message down to each individual university. We're trying to get exposure. I'm working with two media sources that are going to cover the protest, and basically we're just trying to. It doesn't have. We say every university, but we know reasonably that's impossible. But we are going to get a very large portion. That is our drive, is to get as many people as we can in one day to stand up and say, "This is our life. This is my body, my choice." Like, I hear that all the time from the left, "My body, my choice." But now that when somebody wants to do it in regards to vaccinations, like, no, it doesn't apply to that. It doesn't apply to that.
I laugh because so for the Patreon, we just did Chris Goizetta, Jeremy Todd, and I. We did a trio episode over there, and yeah, we were just talking about how you all of a sudden heard that mantra, "My body, my choice," suspiciously absent of the Texas abortion conversation. Maybe because of what's going on in the world right now. I don't know. But it is funny how all of a sudden that argument, the "my body, my choice," was just nowhere to be found in an era of COVID. Yeah, poof. It's amazing how things like that happen. But how about this, Trent? Because we are a sales-focused show, and we're trying to show people that there are positive outcomes there to help solve the problems they see in their surrounding areas and in their life. So let's kind of focus the end of the conversation today on the positive outcomes. What is the goal of this anti-mandate protest? Is it just to get people fired up, or are we actually trying to get some people's lives better here?
One starting out is, yes, to get people fired up. It's to get people feeling like they're not alone, knowing that that you don't have to follow along in response to what your school's policy is making in order for you to get an education. We want people to feel like they have somebody that can support them and advocate for them, and that we're building the antithesis for their team hive mentality, where we're coming back and saying, like, no, we're different. We don't feel like this is something that you can force us to do. It is not right for you to tell me that I have to put this medicine in my body that I don't trust, or I don't trust the research on it, or there isn't enough research on it. And that's the whole vocal point right there, is people just don't feel like they can inject something in their body that they don't know about. I mean, how unreasonable is that to think that way? That when somebody is your government, who have lied to you for your whole life, is telling you, but this time it's okay, this time it's right, this time it's good, you should do it this time. But people don't, the people are scared, and there are millions and millions of people that aren't getting the vaccine because they don't trust what they are being told in the mainstream media. And the mainstream media, their whole ideal and philosophy is to batter down on anybody that says that anything against their narrative. Like you were talking just a minute ago, Brian, about the that redacted word that we're not going to use. You can't use that word now because the pharmaceutical companies are pushing so hard to say that we're going to pull funding. We're going to pull funding here. We're not, if you use this against what we're trying to push. The Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a multi-billion-dollar industry just in this quarter alone. The next 2 quarters, it's going to increase, incredibly. Now there's a third dose. There's going to probably be a fourth dose. We're probably going to have to get boosters every 6 to 9 months. So people are starting, but the positive side, though, is that there are millions of people that are starting to see the bullshit, and they're starting to actually think, wait, no, this doesn't feel right. And we're getting that backdraft from the government's mandated policymakers that are sitting there pushing this idea and this agenda where they have their followers, but then they have this whole separate section of people that we have been, as libertarians, that we have been targeting and trying to get to go and do something against what we're being forced to do. And going back to the abortion thing too, that's another mandate that we're going to start fighting. I'm starting to organize stuff here in Texas. I live in Texas, and I'm starting to work with the Libertarian Party of Texas to organize stuff here to get stuff going to fight back against this. The government's offering people $10,000 to inform on people that get abortions, but that's another story. The whole thing is, once you allow these mandates and things to be set in place and to become natural, then other forced injections of policy will become natural too, and it'll grow and grow and grow to the point to where everything you do is dictated by what big government tells you to do. And that's we're fighting the first battle right here on the ground against the injections.
Trent, as if that could happen here. Like, are we going to see quarantine camps and complete society shut down in the 21st century? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Australia. I didn't mean to talk about you like that without you knowing. Yeah, it's happening. And you need to wake up, folks. If you're not paying attention, I know I tweet it all the time. Do you get it yet? Like, it is happening right now. And if you're not going to stand up and fight back, well, please don't be a useful idiot. Get out of the way. I'm sorry. I'm tired of the adjunct Cato scholars telling folks why mandates are actually a libertarian position.
No.
What?
Oh, God, no.
No more. And also, when the narrative, I mean, this episode's going to be airing tomorrow as we record here on Tuesday, Trent, but like, we just heard that the entire narrative about how the actual bat virus got out. Is that what it was? It was a bite by a bat or something like that.
That's what they yeah.
Well, guess what? Rumor is, and by rumor I mean The Intercept just released an entire article where they went through 900 plus pages through the FOIA documentation process that basically shows, guess what? Rand Paul was right. I know we had an episode with Kenny Cody a couple weeks ago. Ron Paul was right. Well, today Rand Paul was right.
Yeah.
And he was right about? He called out Fauci, saying, hey, did we by chance have any of our tax dollars going from the NIH to the Wuhan virology lab? And he's like,
they had scientists working together. They were working on joint projects together.
No, says Fauci. He says, no, of course not. You don't know what you're talking. Frankly, you don't know what you're talking about, Senator Paul. Like, that was the approach. And guess what? They just found out that those claims from Dr. Fauci and the rest of the NIH were entirely untruthful. What? I'm sorry. I was told that if I even raised up the idea that this got released from a lab, that I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
My ideas are dangerous. Right. And that I shouldn't be a person anymore. Actually, you know what, Brian? You should be unpersoned. You shouldn't be able to be online. You shouldn't be able to access your bank. You shouldn't be able to do anything that an average person does. And by the way, we're going to make sure that you can't go to restaurants. You can't go out into public. You can't be a person anymore. And that's been the mentality that a lot of people have taken, even back as little as a year ago. But the things that we were saying a year ago that were conspiracy theories are now becoming headline news in 2021, Trent. It's truly mystifying how this seems to happen, and only on one side of the aisle.
And, right on the head. I mean, it blows my mind because, I used to dabble in conspiracy theories, and I used to be like, I used to, question, because that's where it starts, is when you start questioning things. And that's what you got to do as natural human beings and people that are questioning authority, is always question it. Always have some other argument to think, well, what if? And, the days of Alex Jones yelling at the radio and people calling him an idiot are gone. I mean, he is a very volatile, crazy person, but there is a lot of truth in the stuff that he's preaching about. And it goes on and on and on to these people that they have misrepresented and thrown to the side and kept them in this little section of crazy conspiracy theorist news people that you should be careful to listen to. But listen to us. But if you listen to them, make sure you question what they're doing.
Well,
But
Trent,
don't listen to us.
it's easy. It's easy to build the straw man when the guy you're building the straw man is, or turn the friggin' frogs gay. Like, that's easy to go ahead and build up as, look at this guy. He's crazy. And that's not the reality, though. And I think what you're finding, and your average person really noticed this if they were paying attention, especially Dr. Gupta, like Scott Gottlieb, these aren't radicals. Dr. Bhattacharya, no, like, they're from Harvard and Yale. And like, we have top epidemiologists, and you're saying that they're Alex Jones? What are you doing?
Crazy.
I had Eli Klein on the show. He's a Democrat business owner from New York City fighting back against the lockdowns and mandates in New York City. And he's a lifelong Democrat. And he said, Brian, my faith's been shaken because I saw what happened when the people that I voted for had all the power and they had a crisis that they were not going to go and let it go to waste. So now I think, we have a chance to take those people who are saying, something's up, and speak to them. So here, we're going to have 2 action items for the audience today, beyond obviously helping support a month from now, October 11th, the National Day of Protest against these mandates, but two shop items that you guys got to go ahead and purchase over at the Brian Nichols Show shop. I'm Proud Libertarian. Number 1, something from the Question Everything series, because, you got to start questioning everything. And number 2, our awesome Stop Trusting Government Bureaucrats t-shirt. Because that right now, I think, is number 1 and number 2. What is top of mind? People are, in fact, starting to question everything, and rightfully so. And also, they are starting to realize that maybe these government bureaucrats that we have never elected, and they just exist and are there in government for decades, and they don't face elections or really any consequences of any sort. And then they can just willy-nilly set policy, like a rent eviction moratorium, or just locking people down in their homes. Just randomly. It's fun. It's a great load of fun. So, Trent, obviously, we want to go ahead and make sure we're pointing people the right way. If they want to learn more about this National Day of Protest, and of course, they want to go ahead and forget all the negative things I talked about today. So, coming up here, October 11th, we do have that National Anti-Mandate Protest. But folks want to go ahead and learn more. Trent, where can they go ahead and check you out?
We are on Twitter at Untyranny Caucus. And if you have any questions or any concerns, or if you want to help organize or help plan your local areas, feel free to PM me. I will have one of my social media guys will get it, and they will get the message to me, and we will start working on it, and we will get you in the loop, and we'll get you involved. We also have our website at untyranny.com. It's UNTYRANNY, Untyranny. And that is where we are best reached at. You can feel free to email me too at tortner@untyranny.com. My first initial and my last name at untyranny.com. And that's basically where we're at. We have a good team right now. We're building and we're organizing. Like I said, we're using the YAL and the SFL infrastructure to help delegate down and get these students to start standing up, just to show up and say, hey, I don't feel right about this. That's the first step. And like I said, one thing that I'm really excited about is the millions and millions of people that haven't gotten vaccinated and are starting to question the authority that is there. I've been doing a lot of statistics, and the last 12 years, 37 to 41% of our country hasn't voted. And that's the people that we're looking at right now, that majority, that silent majority of people that are questioning these vaccines, to get them riled up and get them willing to work and get in their communities and get on the streets and talk about these things that they just don't agree with.
You are not alone. I think that's going to be the episode today, Trent, because at the end of the day, people want to know that they're not alone. So, folks, you want to go ahead and check out more from the Voices Against Tyranny and learn more about Trent, go ahead, click these show notes. You can click the little artwork, it'll bring you right to the website page, and you'll go to Trent's bio, check out all of his links there. Trent Ortner, thank you, as always, for joining us here on today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you, Brian. I enjoyed it. I'll always love talking to you, man.
Yeah, all right, folks. So, yeah, I mentioned it in the intro. Our Lord and Savior, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Sadly, he is retiring. Is it sad, though? To talk about that, Jeffrey Tucker from the Brownstone Institute. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jeffrey, great to have you back in the program. And obviously, today is a sad day. I say that completely tongue in cheek. Dr. Anthony Fauci has announced today that he is stepping away from his role and no longer going to be leading our national discourse on what is science and what is public health. So we're going to dig into that. But before we do that, Jeffrey, you have been fighting the good fight over the past few years, especially when it was not popular, leading the charge obviously with the Great Barrington Declaration, and then helping us here at the amazing organization, the Brownstone Institute, leading the conversation in terms of what is the fact when it comes to the way our government and public health has approached COVID-19. Talk to us. What's been going on since you were last year in the program?
Well, everything keeps getting worse. I mean, I guess that's the summary statement of our times. You know, the spending, the taxing, the inflation, the fallout from the lockdowns, the mandates. Everybody's madder than ever, rightly so. The administrative state that did this to us are locked in our homes, it shut our churches, shut our schools, limited our travel, and so on. Is still ruling the world with the emergency declarations. So nothing has changed. They got scared a little bit and pulled back on their draconian impositions on our lives. But apart from that, everything's still in place. I mean, my unvaccinated friends from Europe still can't visit, even today.
Yep.
Even though the CDC has said that their mandates were ridiculous and the vaccine doesn't work. I mean, that's basically what they said. But even given that, we've got an administrative state that cannot roll back these mandates on travel. So we're no better off than we were, I would say, like 2.5 years ago, in some sense. They can clamp down immediately, even though most people in this country imagine themselves to be free. They're not free by any stretch. We're far less free than we were 3 years ago. And yet, we just, look what they've done to us. They've gaslighted us. They've convinced us that we're free. Everything's back to normal. It's not.
So, this is partly why folks like me left big cities like Philadelphia, New York City, because frankly, I saw the writing on the wall. This wasn't going to go away. And that was obvious. And we saw a lot of these little petty tyrants in their little fiefdoms really get excited at the idea that suddenly they had this draconian power and it could pretty much go unchecked so long as they were doing so in the name of, number one, trusting the science, of course, but number two, using fear as a weapon, and the fear in this case of an invisible virus that no one can see, but you're always going to have to be terrified of. And the only way to show that you're taking it seriously is to wear a mask, stay home, and stay safe, and obviously keep more than 6 feet apart from each other. And that's the approach that not only led the conversation in these cities over the past 2 years, but it permeated the national conversation, and it was led by folks like Dr. Anthony Fauci. And this is the part that I think it's so important for us to talk about today, Jeffrey. And frankly, why I have to go back and praise you and your amazing team over at the Brownstone Institute, because we have to make sure that we've not only been writing what's been happening and documenting what's been happening, but making sure we are setting the record straight right now, as you can watch folks going back and trying to rewrite narratives. You see Deborah Birx trying to distance herself from the response from COVID-19 from the national perspective. You see the CDC starting to turn back a lot of their guidance more or less to what the Great Barrington Declaration promoted back at the very beginning of the pandemic. And now folks like Dr. Fauci, who are looking to move forward and likely in his new book he's told us he's going to be writing, set their own narratives. So let's talk about that. Let's focus on folks like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who he really has been one of the main figureheads, if not the face, when you think of the government response to COVID-19. And I would love to hear your overall summary, Jeffrey Tucker.
Well,
in
I,
terms of
I think
Dr.
the
Fauci.
timing of the resignation is a little bit unusual. It
Mhm.
could be one of two things or a combination of both. I mean, the first thing is that he's a huge liability to the Democratic Party and to Biden's reelection prospects. He said he's not going to resign until December, which is after the midterms. So I'm not sure that it's entirely political, but it certainly is financial. So he's got a huge royalty check waiting in advance from a publisher. I don't know who it is. They offered him several $100,000 to add on to his $450,000 government check that he gets yearly, plus pension. So if he resigns now, he gets his pension. He has to give up his income, but he gets a huge check of royalties. Maybe it's $1 million. I don't know, but he cannot get that as a government employee. So he resigns now. Therefore, he gets the advance on royalties that he hopes that his book is going to earn. Then he'll get somebody else to write his book, and then it'll sell, and then he'll get both be able to keep the advance, and then also get royalties on the sales of his book. So he's the ultimate capitalist in some ways. Um, you know, it's a very bitter end. I don't see it as a victory. It seems like the culmination of a great career of lying and pillaging and locking people down and destroying people's liberty and human rights. And he brags about it, every single day on national television, thanks to the kept media and the kept big tech. He can banish anybody he wants from Twitter, blow away your YouTube account. He controls scientists, hundreds of thousands of them all over the world. And he's probably responsible for the pandemic, which he's trying to cover up. So, Anthony Fauci is a creature of the state and big industry in the ultimate sense. And today I'm on which I'm speaking to you, he's resigned. But he's resigned mostly for financial reasons, and also maybe a little bit because he's become a liability to the Democratic Party.
What would you say has been Anthony Fauci's overall impact, not just on public health in general, but truly looking at science and trusting science across the board? Do you think he has done more in the positive or the negative?
Well, he's discredited science and discredited public health, and that's his legacy. And he did it during the AIDS epidemic, which he said you can catch AIDS by casual contact with toilet seats, for example. And he sent the whole country into panic. I'm talking about like 87, 86, 87, something like that. And that's been his legacy ever since. He's a very good media figure. I think he has training, but he's long ago forgot that training. And he's long ago forgotten science. He's never even looked at it during the COVID pandemic. He manipulated the system. He's a deeply cynical person. Cynical on multiple levels. He doesn't believe science. He doesn't read it. But more than that, he thinks that it's all a hoax and that he's figured out the game, and he has. And so he's been lying to us for the better part of 2.5 years. So in February, let me think of the actual date. It might have been March 2nd. Washington Post reporter named Michael Gerson wrote him and said, what's the point of the social distancing, actually, as you say? This is 2 weeks before the lockdown, right?
Yep.
He said, well, it's not to wait for a vaccine. Vaccines will have no effect whatsoever. We'll be able to get rid of this virus through keeping everybody apart. And closing schools, closing churches, closing mass events, closing sports. So that was his position, March 2nd. Now, this was not a public memo. It was discovered only in the email releases, the FOIA requests. But that was his view. So he really thought we could get to zero COVID with enough lockdowns. That was March 2nd. Now, apparently, he had changed his mind going back to March 26th. He had written Morgan Fairchild, the 80s actress, and said, hey, we're all going to lock down, warn your followers of this. 3 days earlier, he was still diminishing the virus and saying this is not that big a deal. It's just the flu. Don't worry about it. Don't wear a mask. Don't care. 3 days later, he changed his mind. And then 5 days after that, he was telling the Washington Post, we're going to lock down forever. Because if we lock down properly, nobody will get infected, which is ridiculous. It turned out, of course, that everybody got the bug, regardless of lockdowns. This pandemic would have been probably over with 2 years ago if he hadn't had his way, but he did have his way. And he still refuses to take responsibility for the decisions he made. to lock down and to favor lockdowns and persuade Trump to lock down. So, I mean, this guy is a really, I would say, very cynical monster who doesn't believe in truth, doesn't believe in science, doesn't believe in anything. He just says whatever he wants to get his way. That's
Well, and
Anthony Fauci.
you just went to and you touched on this next part I wanted to focus on. That is, well, what happens next? Because yes, he's retiring, and yes, he's going to have his book deal here ready to rock and roll. But you see folks in the Senate like Rand Paul who have been focusing and adamantly saying that no, we're going to be digging more into Fauci's role here as it pertains to COVID-19. We're going to look more into the origins of COVID-19, the Wuhan Institute. We're going to dig into what was our role in funding the gain of function research. Obviously, this is stuff that Rand Paul was raising up from the beginning that was raised to be conspiracy theory, but now it's pretty much well-known, documented fact, and now we're really just starting to peel back the layers here and finding so much. So what's next, Jeffrey? What should we be doing here as we approach Anthony Fauci's role in all this?
So I'm pretty sure he's going to be called before the Congress and the Republicans who are going to take over the Senate and the House, as far as we know, based on the current polling. And Fauci will go there as a private citizen. Not quite yet, right? He'll have about a month, and he'll stonewall. And it'll take countless hours of hearings to get him to admit the truth. And he probably never will. And then, I don't know how old he is. He's very old. At some point, he'll die. And you're going to have to make up your own decision. What do you think about Fauci? What do you think about the lockdowns? What do you think about his legacy? My prediction is that there will be no justice at all, unfortunately. And it's not just Fauci; it's Birx, it's Collins, it's thousands of people around the world that he rules. But we've lived through the biggest lie imaginable, conducted by the state, big tech, and big media. And we're going to have to get to the bottom of it. And it has to start with interrogations of Fauci, but I'm not sure that's going to lead to much. He's too clever, really. And it's up to Rand Paul. And think about this. I mean, like, Rand Paul is a weird character. He has medical training, therefore bravery in the face of this subject. But if it weren't for him, who would there be? Ron Johnson? Yeah, he's a very interesting guy. I like him very much. But okay, take Ron Johnson out of the picture. Who's left?
Right.
Nobody. And so we were locked in our homes. Our churches were closed. Our businesses were destroyed. Our communities smashed. Hundreds of thousands of businesses destroyed. Where's the justice, in all this? So, which leads to the real question: who's in charge of this country? It's not us, not the voters, not the citizens. Something else, and it's the administrative state, of which Fauci really is, the head guy. In some ways. And that's the beast we have to destroy. If you believe in liberty, this should be your number one focus. Hundreds of agencies, 3 million employees, they imagine themselves to be in charge of this country. They exercise power without any kind of oversight, either judicial or legislative. And that's what's become of our country. It's a serious problem.
So now is the inevitable question, well, what can we do about it? And this is looking at what we're seeing right now, because it's already been talked about, what's going to happen when the next pandemic is here, Jeffrey, or can we even use a lot of these different precedences that have been put in place when it comes to climate change? I don't know. So let's talk about this. What can we do, tactically speaking, to take on this massive administrative bureaucratic state?
Well, right now, I think the only thing we can do is vote. And it's a weird thing for me to say because I haven't voted in 30 years, more than that, really. But in the end, we have to rely on the Republican legislators to save us. But they respond, just like judges, to public opinion. So don't think you're powerless, even if you don't vote, which I understand. Public opinion really matters. So if you can speak out in every possible way, if pollster calls you, give you a view. If you have a Twitter account, tweet it out. Risk being banned, which you will be, probably. But anything you can do, in the end, I don't believe that any government even an administrative apparatus like this one can rule without public consensus. If 90% of us are really against what they're doing, we stand a chance. So they manipulated us because we are afraid of a virus. Think about that. Amazing. How did that happen? I don't know. Ignorance, whatever. But that's all we can do is fight the intellectual battle. I mean, these battles have been going on for the better part of 150 years, and in the end, it's public opinion that rules the day. So what you believe in your heart, makes a contribution to changing the system. But the Republicans have to target the administrative state. We have to get back to a constitutional system in which the people actually govern themselves. That's the most important thing I can think of short term. Long term, we have to come to a new belief in human liberty. Otherwise, we're doomed. I'm sorry to say, but we're doomed.
Well, today, 81-year-old, there you go, Anthony Fauci, yes, he has officially, he's saying he's stepping down there in December. So it is an interesting day here. But to your point, Jeffrey, it's not over. This is just a step towards what we need to start doing across the board and seeing all these folks either resign or be forced out of these different positions. And that starts with us. Yeah, changing the way Congress looks, the way the Senate looks. And to your point, I'm right on board. I think right now it's obvious that the Republican Party is the quite obvious only foil that's really out there to serve a tangible alternative to the Democrats who have been really taking this COVID thing to the extreme. So whenever there's a libertarian, I'm all about that. But we have to pick our battles. And in this case today, it's obvious what the biggest battle we're facing is. So Jeffrey, unfortunately, we're getting close to time here. So I want to give you a chance to direct folks not just to where they can go ahead and continue the conversation with you over on social media, but also go ahead and find more about the Brownstone Institute. Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
Sure. Brownstone.org is our website, and we've been publishing 3 articles a day. They've all gone viral. Our website's out of control, which I love. We have millions of views. Support us. We run on a shoestring budget, like all great, like you, like all of us. We're revolutionaries. Like, let's just face it. We're the minority, unfunded, underfunded, and but the future of civilization. And maybe it's always been that way. I don't know, but these are our times, and these are what we know. Right, this is what we know right now. Help us, share us, subscribe, and let's get the word out. And maybe we can make a difference in our times. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining to today's episode. Yeah, and we're going to answer that question. Do we need to declare a pandemic amnesty? It's a question that was raised in a recent article over at The Atlantic. Well, if you've been listening to the program for the past 2.5 years during the COVID insanity, I think you know my take, but we're going to go ahead and read said article and also give my perspective. So, yes, on to today's episode, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about this article written over at The Atlantic. And by the way, if you're joining us here on the audio version of the show, we have a video version of the show as well. Head to briannicholsshow.com and you can check out the audio or the video version that is over on YouTube, Rumble, or on Odyssey. So joining us there right now, I'm going to start here. Let's declare a pandemic amnesty. This is by Emily Oster from The Atlantic. Her subtitle here, we need to forgive one another for what we did and said when we were in the dark about COVID. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read through this on our episode today. So please bear with me as we're going through, and I'm definitely going to give you my feedback. But let's start things off here. In April 2020, with nothing else to do, my family took an enormous number of hikes. We all wore cloth masks that I had made for myself. We had a family hand signal, which the person in front would use if someone was approaching on the trail and we needed to put on our masks. Once when another child got too close to my then 4-year-old son on a bridge, he yelled at her, "Social distancing!" These precautions were totally misguided. In April 2020, no one got the coronavirus from passing someone else hiking. Outdoor transmission was vanishingly rare. Our cloth masks made out of old bandanas wouldn't have done anything anyway, but the thing is, we didn't know. Really? Really? So to start, and this this is the part that it just drives me crazy, is that folks like Emily here are just pretending that basic immunology, basic epidemiology didn't exist prior to March of 2020, February of 2020. We had Anthony Fauci on camera saying that cloth masks would do nothing to prevent the spread and transmission of a virus months, years before the coronavirus outbreak in the beginning of 2020. And yet all of a sudden he changes his tune. But Emily says we couldn't have known. We couldn't have known that this virus was going to behave unlike any virus and actually attack people when you're outside in fresh air. No, we did know. And I think that's one thing before we move forward this article. It is so important for us to stop the the lie. It is an absolute lie that we didn't know. Yes, you did. You did know. But what you did was you let your fear take over your ability to rationalize, to reason, to use logic. I'm sorry. No, you did know, but you chose to act in a different way and to act on your fear. That's what happened, Emily. Let's continue. I've been reflecting on this lack of knowledge thanks to a class I'm teaching at Brown University on COVID. Oh, she's smart. We spent several lectures reliving the first year of the pandemic, discussing the many important choices we had to make under the conditions of tremendous uncertainty. Some of these choices turned out better than others. To take an example close to my own work, there was an emerging, if not universal, consensus that schools in the U.S. were closed for too long. The health risks of in-school spread were relatively low, whereas the cost to students' well-being and educational progress were high. The latest figures on learning loss were alarming, but in spring and summer 2020, we had only glimmers of information. Reasonable people who cared about children and teachers, advocated on both sides of the reopening debate. See, now this is where the gaslighting. No, see, first of all, the idea. Now she mentions the word consensus, right? And that now it's a consensus that is, if not universal, that the schools were closed too long. Well, guess what? The consensus, air quotes, that was talked about at the beginning of the pandemic was that we had to shut down schools. So maybe, just maybe, Emily, the idea of judging how we should dictate our society on consensus isn't the best of ideas, especially when that consensus is wrong. I almost said the Joe Biden, the creepy, it's wrong whisper. Sorry, I wasn't going to do that. But also, she goes in to talk about in the spring and summer of 2020, we only had glimmers of information. Well, why is it that schools in Europe remained open? Why is it that we see schools in places like Florida reopen and have no issues? It's because you didn't want to pay attention to that data. Actually, it's because we weren't allowed to share this information. If I even tweeted something remotely similar to this, I would have gotten banned, suspended, at the very least. Facebook would have put a big check underneath my, a fact check underneath my post. Of course we're upset and we're not taking these words too seriously because I don't believe you. I know that you knew that this was insane back in 2020 and that you refused to acknowledge it because you wanted to let fear drive the way. And also, a lot of people like the fact that they were able to then feel they were doing something virtuous. Look at me. I'm putting a face covering on to make it look like I'm a good person. Please. You want to talk about wearing your politics on your sleeve? Continuing. Another example, when the vaccines came out, we lacked definitive data on the relative efficacies, of the Johnson & Johnson shot versus the mRNA options from Pfizer and Moderna. The mRNA vaccines have one out to be determined there. But at that time, many people in public health were either neutral or expressed a J&J preference. This misstep wasn't nefarious. It was the result of uncertainty. Well, I don't know. There was a lot of us who were saying maybe it's not a good idea to, just rapidly produce a massive mass scale injection across a global scale and not really have too much definitive testing. Maybe that's not a good idea. It's not a matter of saying that, we weren't uncertain. Actually, we were quite certain that might not be a good idea. And to say it wasn't nefarious, I mean, let's look at all the stuff that we are finding now that was hidden behind the scenes, things that the drug companies and a lot of our elected officials and non-elected bureaucrats, they in fact did know. Yeah, that did happen. So obviously, continues Emily, some people intended to mislead and made wildly irresponsible claims. Remember when the public health community had to spend a lot of time and resources urging Americans not to inject themselves with bleach? That was bad. Misinformation was and remains a huge problem, but most errors were made by people who are working in earnest for the good of society. Oh, hold on, Emily. So this is the nobody said inject yourself with bleach. And anybody who actually listened, she's referring to what Trump said when he was talking about there was some scientists that he had met with, I think it was that day or the day earlier, who were talking about a possibility of using something of a substance that was, quote, bleach like, but it wasn't actually bleach. Obviously, he's Trump. He's trying to take what he hears in science talk and speak it to an average person, but also to make it so he understands what it was as well. Obviously, it's not bleach. And the fact that people ran with this narrative, just like the horse paste narrative, I hit my table too hard, sorry. The horse paste narrative with, can I say ivermectin? Am I going to get stricken down now for saying that word, the I word? But no, that was also a narrative that was wildly run with. But other drugs also like hydroxychloroquine, I mean, rather, that was also shown that it was semi-effective, but also was pushed to the side. But then other drugs like remdesivir was pushed forward and ended up killing more people. Well, how does that happen? Is it nefarious or is it uncertainty or is it a combination of both? Continuing. Given the amount of uncertainty, almost every position was taken on every topic. And on every topic, someone was eventually proved right and someone else was proved wrong. In some instances, the right people were right for the wrong reasons. Ooh. And in other instances, they had a pressing understanding of available information. That people who got it right, for whatever reason, may want to gloat. Those who got it wrong, for whatever reason, may feel defensive and retrench into a position that does not accord with the facts. All this gloating and defensiveness continues to gobble up a lot of social energy and to drive the culture wars, especially on the internet. These discussions are heated, unpleasant, and untimely and unproductive. In the face of so much uncertainty, getting something right and had a hefty element of luck. And similarly, getting something wrong wasn't a moral failing. Treating pandemic choices as a scorecard on which some people racked up more points than others is preventing us from moving forward. Well, I'm sorry, Emily. Some of us were told that you couldn't go to see your family members in the hospital, go and grieve when your loved ones pass away. There are those who missed the birth of their children. There are families who were just absolutely crushed when their businesses were shut down because they were ruled unessential. So maybe, Emily, maybe, just maybe, I know that you're super duper smart and brown, professor and such, but maybe there's more to this than scoring points. Maybe it's because your incessant need to take your fear porn and your hypochondria and put it into policy, and that negatively impacted millions of Americans to the point that many of them are never going to be able to recover. Maybe, Emily, that's the problem. Maybe it doesn't have to do with the fact that they're looking to score some one-up point in the culture wars, but rather that you advocated openly and gleefully the destruction of their livelihoods. Just a thought. We have to put these fights aside and declare a pandemic amnesty. We can leave out the willful purveyors of actual misinformation while forgiving the hard calls that people had no choice but to make with imperfect knowledge. Los Angeles County closed its beaches in summer 2020. Ex post facto, this makes no more sense than my family's masked hiking trips. But we need to learn from our mistakes and then let them go. Hold on. Will you learn from your mistakes, though, Emily? Will you? Because I haven't seen that. I'm still hearing the conversations about the need for us to continue to mask. I'm still hearing teachers in the teacher unions, the government teacher unions, the public sector teacher unions argue that we should have restricted learning. I'm still seeing the idea that we need to be advocating folks have a vaccine or to go to certain restaurants in certain big blue cities. So really, have we moved forward? I don't think so. Continuing. Because I thought schools should reopen and argued that kids as a group were not high risk, I was called a teacher killer and a génocidaire. I don't know, I don't speak French. It wasn't pleasant, but feelings were high, and I certainly don't need to dissect and rehash that time for the rest of my days. Moving on is crucial now because the pandemic created many problems that we still need to solve. Student test scores have shown historic declines, more so in math than in reading, and more so for students who were disadvantaged at the start. Surprised. It's almost as if some of us said that from the very beginning, Emily. Continuing, we need to collect data, experiment, and invest. Is high dosage tutoring more or less cost effective than extended school years? Why have some states recovered faster than others? We should focus on questions like these because answering them now will help our children recover. Well, here's a thought, Emily. You might not like the answers. You want to go look at Florida? Let's go have a conversation about why Florida is doing so well. As a matter of fact, let's go have the conversation why so many red states that either shut down and then immediately opened thereafter when they started to get more of the data or didn't shut down at all. Those states seem to be doing quite hot. As a matter of fact, a lot of those states are seeing an increase in population because a lot of the blue states and the blue cities that shut down, they're hemorrhaging their populace, like Pennsylvania, New York, California. I just moved from Philadelphia to a red state like Indiana. Why? Because F that. You think I'm going to allow a Philly mayor and his health department to determine whether or not I'm going to be allowed to go to a business because I haven't taken an experimental vaccine and not covering my face with a diaper? Screw you. And guess what? I'm taking my tax dollars with me. And millions of other folks took that route as well. And guess what? That's the reason why we're making the move here. And I asked, have you learned? Do you want to have that conversation, Emily? Open invite in the show, by the way. Love to have a conversation. And I apologize if I'm a little heated, but this is something I can't take the gaslighting. And frankly, I don't believe you. I don't believe you want to learn. I think you want to have the people like me, the folks who have been having to spend the past 2.5 years be called science deniers, that we don't want to trust the experts because we want to see grandma die. That rhetoric, yeah, that maybe got us a little heated. But I also don't believe you in saying you want to make amends. I believe you want us to shut up. But do you actually want to learn? Do you want to see what worked? Or do you want to hear your experts tell you, well, if we'd only masked harder, if we had only done things better, if we'd only taken things more seriously, then, hey, you know what? If we just all done what we were told, none of this would have happened. Yeah, that's why, Emily, because I don't believe that you actually want to hear what works. I think you want to hear people tell you you were right, and it's okay that you didn't have actual success from your ideas. They would have worked if we had only done what you had told us to do. If only we had masked when we were hiking with you, or your child had screamed louder at that child, probably like you had coached them to, because social distancing. Continuing. Many people have neglected their health care over the past several years. Notably, routine vaccination rates for children for measles, pertussis, that's a fun one, I never heard of that, etc., are way down. Rather than debating the role of messaging about COVID vaccines had in this decline, we need to put all out our energy in bringing these rates back up. Time out. Is it that, or is it a matter that we've also seen pre-screenings and such in health across the board for cancers, you name the preventative issues that are out there, the preventative measures, those screenings plummeted during 2020. Of course, that includes vaccinations. I love how she's like, oh, well, maybe it's the people who are skeptical of the vaccines. That's the reason people aren't getting their kids vaccinated for measles. No, it's probably because parents were terrified of sending their kids to the hospital to go get their shots or go to the doctor, get their shots, when we were conditioned by the media and folks like you, Emily, to believe that if you were next to somebody who was a normal breathing person, but they weren't wearing a mask, that they were a threat to you and that they could give you a disease, a virus that you can't see. Maybe that's why they didn't go to the hospital, not because they were questioning the vaccine, Emily, but also maybe they should be questioning the vaccine, especially for their kids, Emily. Also, continuing Emily's article, pediatricians and public health officials will need to work together on community outreach, and politicians will need to consider school mandates. Pardon my language, parents, earmuffs. The fuck they will. You think you're going to mandate putting vaccines for kids to go to schools? The CDC is already trying to do that. And guess what? Thank God there's a Republican governors out there. And yeah, by the way, libertarians, this is why it's important for us to get out of our, pardon the expression, autistic ways and allow ourselves to look at the reality that, yeah, having a Republican governor was almost guaranteed a better outcome than if you were in a state with a Democrat governor. And if you were in a state with a Republican governor, I'm sure that's hard to believe. I promise you, it's the reality. So that's why it's so important. But also, you think you're going to go ahead and force kids to get this vaccine every 6 months in order to continue to be up with their boosters? Is that the game we're playing? That's for kids to go to school? And then what? To go to college, they have to get vaxxed, and then they're going to have to get boosted in order to go to college every single year. When does this end? Will it end? I've said this before. It's not going to end until we say it ends. Continuing. And by the way, this is the end of the article. The standard saying is that for those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. But dwelling on the mistakes of history can lead to a repetitive doom loop as well. Let's acknowledge that we made complicated choices in the face of deep uncertainty and try to work together to build back and move forward. Well, I don't know, Emily. I disagree. Mainly because I don't believe you. Yeah, people who do forget history are condemned to repeat it. But that also means we do have to actually acknowledge the history, and you don't want to do that. That's the problem, because it's going to require you to actually sit down and acknowledge what you did, what a lot of other folks like you did. And here's the thing, right? We're never going to get Emily, and I'm talking to you now, audience. Hello. I'm done being heated, Brian. We have to talk about how do we move forward in a world with many Emilys out there writing articles for The Atlantic. And the reality is that she's not our market. She is our competition, though. She's writing articles like this because she's trying to be persuasive to a market of people who are trying to figure what the hell just happened. What the past 2.5 years, they have gone from 2 weeks to slow the spread to I need to get an everlasting booster in order to consider myself safe. That's where we're at. And we've gone from 0 to 1 million, and we're still having a lot of folks playing catch up. So what we have to do is not try to convince Emily that she's wrong. I'm pointing to my screen here, by the way. We have to avoid that mentality of like, yeah, obviously Emily is wrong. Obviously Emily is trying to gaslight her audience. What we have to do, and what I'm trying to do here today, and I'm trying to instruct you to do, is to take this argument that she's promoting, rip it to shreds, and present what actually happened. Give the facts, give the truth, and do so in the way that we effectively know works. Meeting people where they're at, on the issues they care about. You know somebody who's got a kid? Talk to them about the vaccine mandate for kids to go to school. You know somebody who's a small business owner? Talk to them about the businesses getting shut down and crushed. You know somebody who's a laborer? Tell them about the differences between essential and non-essential employees. Let's have this conversation, but also make sure that when we are setting the record straight, that we're never letting folks like Emily try to set the narrative. And how much of history? I mean, this is the part that this pandemic has really taught me. I don't know about you. How much of history is just BS? Because we're seeing folks like Emily in real time try to rewrite the narrative, trying to gaslight people what we just all lived through. How much of history is just that? How much have we read in our textbooks is just that? I'm asking genuinely. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sure a lot of us, our brains are going to start to melt trying to really go into those rabbit holes. But when you see it happen in real time, it reaffirms why it's so important for us to do what we're doing. We talked about this months ago with our good buddy there, Caleb Franz, who, by the way, just got a brand new freaking book deal. Really excited for that. I'm excited to have him on the show in the future to talk about that. But we talked about the importance of us setting the narratives now and telling history in our words, because if we don't, people like Emily, they're going to. And they're going to say it like this. You want your grandkids reading this Atlantic piece one day in their history class and say, like, there were good people like Emily who were trying to bring things together, but the evil misinformation Republicans and libertarians, they just wouldn't have it. That's going to be the narrative if you don't do your part. If we don't go out and effectively sell our ideas to your average person who lived through this BS over the past 2.5 years. That's your challenge and your mission, should you choose to accept it. All right. That's what I have for you guys today. I think I'm going to leave it there. So to answer the question, do we need to declare a pandemic amnesty? No. As a matter of fact, we're going to double down and we're going to continue to make sure that people like you never have a position of power again. Emily from The Atlantic. What the hell's her name? Emily Oster. I think I'm going to go ahead and give her the dignity of getting her name. But if you want to check this article out, I mean, I'm not going to link to it, but you can go check it out on The Atlantic. Yeah, I want to make sure, and I'm sure that you do as well, people like Emily never have the ability to determine what we are allowed to do with our livelihoods based on fear. And I'm tired of this complete rejection of reality and the attempt to gaslight your average person. It's despicable. To quote Hillary Clinton, it's deplorable. And frankly, it's unacceptable. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to do this. We're going to have these conversations and tell the truth. So, all right, folks, there you go. There you have it. And I don't even want to do the Brian Griffin from Family Guy, well, I don't want to say I told you so, but yeah, in face. Yeah, I can't do that. I could, and I want to, but that's not enough, right? It's not to you get the little award to be like, we were right.
Well, it turns out we were right.
There needs to be something tangible that comes from this. Quite literally, hundreds of thousands of Americans died because of the approach and the narratives that were being promoted by people like Anthony Fauci, but not limited to Anthony Fauci. Looking at you, Rochelle Walensky or Deborah Birx and crew. But with that being said, I understand the realities that Anthony Fauci was pardoned, but that doesn't preclude him from state charges. So I'm looking at you, Ron DeSantis and team, like, let's get to work, right? We have awesome governors like Ron DeSantis who are out there who can actually go ahead and do something with the information we have, because Anthony Fauci caused real damage. And that's not just for us, by the way. There's other countries around the world who received real damage because of people like Anthony Fauci. And that's not even starting the conversations around his role back during the HIV and AIDS epidemic of the 80s and 90s. But if you want to really, learn about that, go watch Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey, where you're going to remember that Anthony Fauci was the bad guy there too.
Welcome to the Dallas Buyers Club.
So sorry to my friends out there who are still stuck on this mentality that Anthony Fauci was the good guy, that the science was correct, that the experts can do and know no wrong. No, and I'm sorry. And I saw this post over on social media, and I'll end with this. It was this response to Stephen A. Smith, who was saying that Kyrie Irving was one of the bravest men in the NBA during COVID because he forfeited millions of dollars in game checks because he refused the COVID vaccine. And he played for the New York Knicks. Nets. Played for a New York team. And for folks who remember, New York, going back to Bill de Blasio, as we were talking about with Anthony Fauci, was a very, very, very stringent state. New York City, even worse. And for Kyrie Irving to not only say, nah, I'm good, but then to face the slings and arrows. And now for someone like a Stephen A. Smith to say, like, hey, Kyrie, you were right, I was wrong, and I'm going to come out and say that. And then this one guy on X was like, why are we seeing all these people coming out and saying this, trying to change the narrative around COVID? All these things that we did help save lives. And I responded, because what you literally just said, everything you just said, is factually incorrect. It's wrong. It's just objectively wrong. And that's why this episode happened today. That's why this is important to continue talking about 6 years later, even though I know we're all exhausted from the COVID talk. But if we refuse to acknowledge what happened during COVID and specifically how it happened, we're without a doubt setting ourselves up for it to happen again. And that's just the dirty, rotten truth.
You can't handle the truth.
That I wish wasn't the case, but it is. So what are we going to do now? Well, I would argue we have to make it as untenable as possible for folks in the future to do what Anthony Fauci and crew did, which means there has to be some type of public response. It's on our lawmakers and those who are supposed to enforce the law to hold someone like Anthony Fauci to account. I distinctly remember some of my friends on the left saying back during the Biden administration, nobody's above the law. Yup, you're right. Nobody's above the law. Starting on your side as well. And, I just had a conversation with Lanny Davis. It was a really good chat. He's Bill Clinton's former impeachment lawyer, Michael Cohen's former lawyer. And, it's a really great chat to have with someone who wants to seek civility. But I also think we have to acknowledge reality, right? And I will 100% be civil with someone. But when it comes to determining the future of our country and determining which type of society we're going to live in, I'm going to err on the side of reality. Civility is important, but reality is more important. So again, and that's not to discredit any of my conversation with Lanny. I just had to end with that because I was thinking about that the other day after I listened to my chat with Lanny. Civility is absolutely important, but we need to live in the world of reality. I can be civil with someone who is mentally ill and is a biological man and thinks they're a chick. I can be civil with that person. But in terms of how my society needs to function, we need to live in reality.
I'm really sorry about this whole Tranny Tuesday thing.
He's still a dude, and he's not going to go to the bathroom with my young daughters. Not going to happen, right? So again, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but in terms of how society needs to be built, reality wins every single time. All right, folks, thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show. I know it was a little different of an episode because we had a little bit, some new stuff, a little bit of some old stuff, but at the end of the day, the drill here, right? And that's to leave you educated, enlightened, and informed. So if I checked all those boxes today, please do me a favor, head to briannicholsshow.com/reviews. Give us a 5-star rating and review. You can do that on your favorite podcasting platform, by the way. So whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, wherever it is, please give us a 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, of course, hit subscribe. And I mentioned earlier, we started the show back in 2018. So we have over 1090. Wow. Over 1,090 episodes here of the Brian Nichols Show. We hit episode 1,000 back last summer. So it's amazing how fast things go. But yeah, go ahead, make sure you hit subscribe. And if you're joining us on the video version of the show, which yes, if you're an audio listener, we have that. YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, wherever it is you would consume video content, you're probably going to find the Brian Nichols Show. Again, hit the subscribe button, head down below into the comments. Let me know your thoughts. What did you face during COVID? Were you one of the teachers or nurses who was facing the question, do I take the jab or keep my job, right? And maintain my livelihood? Were you a Democrat who bought the narrative hook, line, and sinker, and now you look back and you're like, oh my God, I was completely wrong? Or are you someone who you're saying, Brian, you guys are completely out to lunch. You're complete anti-science rubes, and you guys are a threat to society.
Trust the science, my darling.
If you're that person, I want to know kind of what world you're living in, because again, I want to live in reality and I don't think you're there, but hey, I want to hear your thoughts. Let us know. And also it's a reminder to folks in the comments that people like that exist and they vote, and their vote is equal to yours. If you enjoyed today's chat, beyond giving it some love, give me some love. Find me on X, Facebook, and Instagram, wherever it is you would go on social media. You can find me at bnicholsliberty and ask for the Brian Nichols Show. You can find us at briannicholsshow.com. And if you want to support the show, you can make a one-time donation at briannicholsshow.com/support, or support the folks who support us, like our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. Remember, it's cardiomiracle.com/TBNS to begin your heart health journey. And I think I'm going to go ahead and leave things there because, yeah, it was a triggering episode. So thank you for joining us here on this flashback. And of course, kind of a look forward to how we learn from what happened over the past 6 years. And of course, we'll make sure it never happens again. That being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.